30 billion rupees. If that collapsed, the entire industry will collapse.
That would have been
A disaster.
Another disaster.
Another disaster,
A
probably
disaster double the size of GK disaster.
GK disaster. Because you are catering to more than 1,000 depositors alone, who have been there, as I told you, more than 20-30 years. So if that collapsed, the entire industry will collapse, because this is the oldest finance company. People will lose confidence in the finance industry.
Can you be satisfied with the way the affairs of TFC being handled now?
Yes, we are quite happy, but in restructuring these companies, sometimes as the managing agent, we need to take some unfriendly decisions
and drastic
measures. For example, that there was a point that we had to reduce the interest rate, the prevailing interest rate, almost to by half, in order to protect the organization. Now, people may complain that we reduce the interest rates from 20% to 10%. What happens is, like, we are looking at long-term sustainability or survival of this entity. If we had we continued to pay the interest at the previous levels, and we can pay the depositors of the interest for next 1 year. What happens is, when we pay interest, the interest component of the finance is almost around 400 million a month, a massive amount, because 27 billion, 20% is almost coming to 400-500 million a month. That for a year we need to pay around 5 billion. So this money has to be paid again, as I told you, from the income that we generate from the business. But during this crisis situation, no finance company, especially the finance companies under Selinco, did any business. So they have been using the income from the previous businesses to pay interest plus the depositors. If we continue this for another 1 year, it is uncertain that we will be able to pay the depositors' capital, which is very important. So therefore, we had to take a very drastic decision, a painful decision, to reduce the interest rate to 10%, where after even 1 year we will be able to pay the capital plus a reasonable return to their investment. But again, considering the request made by the depositors, we have increased the rate of interest to 12% from 1st of January, and we have given 1 more percent to the senior citizen as well. That means they should be able to get around 13% interest per annum. So although we have taken this drastic decision, we are quite confident that once we come back to normal business, even not maybe it will take maybe 6 months to 1 year, we will pay the interest equivalent to the market rates. But first, our intention is to rescue the organization, rescue the stakeholders, pay a reasonable interest or return, and to make sure that business is progressing well. And once we come to a break-even level, that we will revise the rates, and where the stakeholders or depositors can get the rates equivalent to the market rates.
Well, Mr. Ratnayaka, since the finance company is a public core company, we have a right to talk about the affairs of the finance, especially the shareholders and the stakeholders. Now, apart from these fiscal policies that you adopted in order to sustain the company, what measures have you taken to eradicate the waste, corruption and the frauds that were rampant in that organization? Do you
we are very like, say, merchant bank is very famous for corporate governance and good governance. And for example, like, say, in these companies, accounts were manipulated, no proper governance were there, and we have brought a lot of things. But we are practicing at our bank, we have brought a lot of systems and procedures, and we have reduce the waste, as you said, that a lot of money was spent on on various things, like donations, like
some projects which didn't have a clear objective.
Most of the projects.
Most of the projects.
Yes. And we now say, for example, a lot of irregularities have been taken place in real estate dealings. We have stopped buying new properties. What we are trying to do is we have around 9 billion worth of properties at the finance.
9 billion.
9 billion worth of properties. Around 7 billion tradable stock. That means there are around 5,000 blocks of lands all over the country. With the finance, we are trying to dispose them and try to realize some the revenue to the organization. And we have reduced a lot of overheads, lot of like say reduce their maybe like salaries. Of course we have reduced up to some extent, but we have reduced a lot of other expenditure. So not only the interest, not only the depositors were deprived of their rights, but other things we have control.
You have put a certain system where the company will sustain, and the interest of the depositors, interest of the employees, and the interest of the stakeholders will be guaranteed.
Yes.
So in that sense, can you give us assurance that the Merchant Bank of Sri Lanka will not pull out from its current operations from the finance, and the finance future will be kept intact?
Yeah, as I told you that we have, MBSL has almost 37% stake in the finance. We are the largest shareholder, and therefore that we have some interest. And I don't think that we will pull out at any moment. If the regulators want us to do so, we will comply, but otherwise we will continue with them. And we are pretty sure that we are quite confident that within 1 year we should be able to come back to normal the environment of business.
Well, I'm sure that will be a good news for the depositors and the stakeholders of the finance company. While we spoke about the finances, like MBSL has been entrusted with the task of overseeing the finance. Literally, they are the guardians of and the custodians, the regulators of the finance company. And now we will take a short break. I'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching the round table. I'm in discussion with Mr. Janaka Ratnayaka, the chairman of Merchant Bank of Sri Lanka. Well, at the time of our discussion, we were talking about the MBSL's role in the finance. Now we move into a more broader spectrum of relevance to the financial industry in Sri Lanka. Now, Mr. Ratnayaka, during the last 12 months to last 24 months, let's say 2 years, we had seen a greater involvement on the part of the government, a greater government intervention in public sector affairs. What is your point of view with regard to this?
I think before we face this crisis, people of all over the world believe that the growth or the development of any economy, any country can be achieved only through private sector drive. But it was proven wrong. See what happens in America. They faced a severe financial and economic crisis. The government had to intervene, coming out with various bailout packages and rescue missions. People may think that the $5 trillion that they have invested, they have just given for these companies. No. Like us, like Merchant Bank, acquired these other businesses, trouble businesses. This government of America invested this money in these entities, taking ownership. And it is proved wrong that only private sector can drive the economy. As if you go back to the theory of John Maynard Keynes, he has said that long ago, government intervention in public government involvement in private sector is very important in a crisis situation. Because you have to keep people employed, and government should intervene to develop the infrastructure and things like that.